Now get the guns, the drugs from my generation. I'll take the fall, the saints, and across the nation. And it's a sex, the gods, the fakes, the fraud, they're messing with me. Come on, come on, come on, let's get it on. Move to the music, play that fucking music. Live through my music, yeah.
It's the 26th of February 1996 and we have a Monday Night War going on. WWF Raw is showing taped matches from Cincinnati, Ohio on the USA Network, while WCW Nitro is live on TNT coming from Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's see what happens this week in another episode of Reliving the War. WWF Raw kicks off with a recap of the Undertaker and Diesel stuff that's been going on over the past few weeks. Diesel is going to be in action tonight on Raw, and we're also going to see Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels share the ring for a promo. Over on Nitro, the commentary team build up the 6-man tag main event featuring Hulk Hogan and the Bootyman, who Eric Bischoff calls the Spy. It was revealed that the Bootyman was actually a Dungeon of Doom mole working for Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. The Zodiac thing was a complete act apparently, and Ed Leslie is now a good guy. We're also going to see Harlem Heat versus the Road Warriors, a match that sounds excellent on paper. Our opening matches then are Sting versus Big Bubba on Nitro, while the WWF gives us Isaac Yankem versus Jake Roberts. Yankem and Roberts make their way to the ring as Jerry Lawler looks on with concern. The King has a real fear of snakes, of course, and Lawler is on the edge throughout this match. So it's the DDT versus DDS. You don't really expect big things here, and you'd be disappointed if you thought this was going to be a Jake Roberts classic. The two men lock up and Yankem gets the better of Jake. Jake fights his way out of the corner before the two men lock up again. This time it leads to a hip toss from Roberts that looks a little shaky. A short arm clothesline fails to hit the mark, allowing Yankem to hit a clothesline of his own. Yankem follows up with some forearms to a grounded Jake Roberts as Vince McMahon tells us that Jake's snake is no longer named Damien, it's named Revelations. Jake had recently seen the light and turned to Christianity during some low points in his life, so Roberts was all about spreading the word of God for a little while anyway. Yankem continues the onslaught by choking and scratching Jake in the corner. Vince tells us that Goldust will be phoning into the show a little later to talk about Roddy Piper. Yankem is beating the hell out of Jake the Snake Roberts, but Jake turns it around with a boot to the face. Yankem manages to stop Jake's momentum and the dentist signals for the DDT. Jake the Snake holds on to the ropes and Roberts is able to deliver his own DDT to put an end to the match. I mean, there was nothing wrong with this bout, but it was very by the numbers. Nothing bad, but nothing good either. After the opening match, we see a bunch of kids asking for the return of the Ultimate Warrior. Another Warrior music video plays, and afterwards, Vince McMahon says that we can only hope the Warrior makes a return to the WWF. As Big Bubba makes his way down to the ring, Eric Bischoff gives away the Raw results. Eric tells us the winner of the Jake Roberts match, the Diesel match, and the Raw main event, while calling the WWF the World Whining Federation. Nitro went on the air around 3 minutes before Raw, and so Eric Bischoff had just told everyone what happened on the USA Network before the WWF show even went on the air. The Stinger gets a great ovation during his entrance, the bell rings to start the match, and we get a lot of stalling. Big Bubba gives a clean break in the corner to show he's a nice guy, but Sting slaps him in the face when he goes for the handshake. Sting delivers his face crusher to the delight of the audience, but Big Bubba answers with an atomic drop, followed by an uppercut from the outside of the ring. Big Bubba applies a headlock, Sting fights his way out, but an impressive spinebuster stops the Stinger's momentum. It's at this moment I noticed Bart Simpson sitting in the audience, and there's a parrot right in front of him. Great stuff. Sting kicks out of multiple pin attempts before a chin lock gets applied. Big Bubba brings the Stinger to the corner. Sting again tries to fight back, but Big Bubba brings a splash to the Stinger that once again kills his opponent's momentum. Bubba continues to destroy Sting. The fight finds its way to the outside of the ring as a little old lady begins ripping into Big Bubba. I don't think this is a plant either, because security come down to tell Grandma to sit the fuck down, maybe giving her some reassurance that Sting's going over and there's nothing to worry about. Sting then delivers a questionable piledriver that could have went very, very wrong, but luckily Big Bubba is okay. The two men get to their feet to trade punches. Sting gets the better of Big Bubba. Sting goes to the top rope, but Bubba gets the knees up. Sting gets thrown out of the ring and Big Bubba goes upstairs. Sting is able to stop Bubba's attack. Sting delivers a flying crossbody and the match is over. Sting wins via pinfall, and hopefully Grandma has calmed down. It's a point for Nitro. Up next on Nitro, we have a promo with the Road Warriors, Sting and Lex Luger, while the WWF gives us Bob Holly versus Big Daddy Cool Diesel. Diesel starts the match off with a big knee strike. Big Daddy Cool dominates early, but Bob Holly tries to bring the fight to the corner. Diesel easily throws Bob Holly away and the domination continues. Diesel begins looking around the ring, checking to see if the Undertaker is lurking around. Diesel continues the onslaught with a series of strikes in the corner. Holly gets whipped hard into the opposite turnbuckle as Diesel continues to look around for the dead man. Holly is able to hit a dropkick and a few clotheslines, knocking Big Daddy Cool to the mat. When we come back from commercial though, we see the jackknife immediately. No idea how Diesel turned things around, but yeah, Diesel wins. It feels like a really incomplete match here due to the editing. Diesel begins taunting the Undertaker. Big Daddy Cool has a lot more confidence as he begins walking back up the ramp, and just then we hear the gong. The lighting in the arena begins to flicker, the lights come back on, and the Undertaker is standing in the ring. Diesel begins walking towards the squared circle, the lights go out again, and the Undertaker has disappeared. The lights go out one last time, and the Undertaker appears on the screen. The Undertaker asks Diesel if he wants to play some mind games. Diesel looks a little shook up, and the segment comes to an end. The post-match stuff really saved a poor match here. The Road Warriors interrupt a planned interview with Sting and Luger. Animal says that the Road Warriors have been tight with Sting for a long time, but Hawk and Animal aren't too keen on the Stinger's relationship with Lex Luger. Luger wants a little backup here from his tag partner, but Sting's head looks completely fried. He obviously doesn't want to go over all this stuff again, and to be fair, this rocky relationship between Luger and Sting has been going on since the beginning of Nitro. Lex Luger has been saying that he's from the mean streets of Chicago, and Sting tells Lex that the Road Warriors are from the streets. Luger then begins throwing out challenges to Hawk and Animal that Sting clearly wants no part of. Luger ends up agreeing to a tag team Chicago street fight, and when the Road Warriors leave the interview, Luger reveals to Sting that he has no idea what a Chicago street fight is. Sting gets pissed off and he too leaves the interview. This was one of Luger's better promos in recent weeks due to how oblivious he acted, but I'm still giving the point to Raw. The Undertaker stuff was pretty good in comparison to the Nitro promo. Lex Luger takes on the Renegade next, while Ahmed Johnson goes one-on-one with Shinobi, or Avatar, or Leif Cassidy, or Al Snow. Al Snow had a grand total of 2 matches as the Shinobi character, and if we look at his second match as Shinobi from the Superstar tapings the very next night, Al actually worked as both Shinobi and Leif Cassidy during the same tapings, taking 2 consecutive losses. What's even more strange is that the Avatar character made a comeback for a few house show dates the following month. Who knows what was going on here? This match with Ahmed Johnson though is an absolute disaster, and surprisingly it wasn't Ahmed's fault. Shinobi gets launched over the top rope right at the opening bell, and just then Goldust phones in. Goldust reads out a suggestive poem about Roddy Piper. The bizarre one says that he can't wait to play with Roddy's bagpipes and things of that nature. And while the phone call goes on, the action in the ring begins falling apart. Ahmed destroys Shinobi as expected. The match doesn't even hit the 2-minute mark, but it's this springboard attempt right here where poor Al Snow falls right on his face. that puts the nail in the coffin. There was no recovering from this one. Spinebuster, Pearl River Plunge, Ahmed scores the win in a brutal matchup. Goldust does not mention Razor Ramon once during the entire phone call. There's no explanation about Ramon's absence, and the WWF were moving forward with Piper versus Goldust instead of the planned Razor Ramon versus Goldust WrestleMania match. The Renegade runs to the ring as the guys in the production truck fall asleep and forget to play the poor guy's theme music. Lex comes out holding his WCW Tag Team Championship, and the match gets underway with the Renegade overpowering the total package a few times. Lex goes to the outside to catch his breath. Luger pokes the Renegade in the eye, and this gives the total package a chance to briefly build some offense. The Renegade fights back. Luger goes for an atomic drop, but the Renegade no-sells it and delivers a clothesline. A back body drop follows, but Luger is able to move out of a crossbody attempt, and Renegade finds himself bouncing off the ropes chest first. Luger tries to put the match away with a side suplex, but it's no good. A running clothesline takes the Renegade off his feet, and then Luger applies a chin lock. Renegade fights out, and from here, Renegade's inexperience really comes into play, and things just don't flow well at all. Luger should have taken a bit more control to direct the next sequence of moves, but the two men just begin sharing offense while forgetting to sell. Renegade is trying to, quote, hulk up, but he does this for a prolonged time while taking offense from Luger. It just doesn't work, and it's hard to explain, but watch it for yourself and you'll know what I mean. It's a real lack of chemistry and communication, and while nothing is botched, it just looks like two guys going through the motions. Renegade hits two clotheslines followed by a power slam. The Renegade then hits a cartwheel back elbow followed by a bulldog, which admittedly looked pretty good. Jimmy Hart then shows up and he pushes the Renegade off the top rope. This allows Lex to apply the torture rack for the win. Jimmy Hart celebrates with Lex Luger, but then Sting shows up. Sting isn't happy that Jimmy Hart and the total package still have some sort of relationship. Sting says to Lex that it was either Jimmy Hart or the Stinger. Luger tries to say he didn't know Jimmy was going to interfere, and Sting begins screaming at Luger before the segment comes to an end. Luger versus Renegade wasn't a good match, but it was way better than Shinobi versus Ahmed Johnson, so it's a point for Nitro. Harlem Heat take on the Road Warriors next on Nitro, while Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels have an in-ring promo on Raw. I can recall nearly this entire promo and I already know it's pretty good, so I'm interested in seeing if Harlem Heat versus the Road Warriors will be as good as it sounds. Booker T and Hawk start things off after a fair amount of stalling. Booker gets the better of Hawk with a body slam followed by an Irish whip to the corner, but Hawk fights back with a clothesline. Hawk hits a drop kick to Booker's chest, but Booker manages to rally back. Hawk hits a neck breaker to slow down his opponent, and Stevie Ray and Animal then get tagged in. More stalling follows as both men lock up a few times. Stevie Ray goes into the driver's seat with a few right hands followed by another body slam. Hawk gets the upper hand with a clothesline, and yeah, complete deja vu here. It's the same sequence we just saw with Booker and Hawk. Animal tags out, Stevie Ray delivers a powerbomb to Hawk, and Booker T then comes back into the match as the audience chants for LOD. Booker hits the X kick, but Hawk kicks out. Stevie Ray comes back in and some double team offense follows. Hawk eats another clothesline as Animal tries to rally up the audience. Hawk eventually begins to build some momentum, but it doesn't last long. Booker T gets tagged in once again and we see a jumping sidekick. A double team suplex follows, and the Road Warriors aren't getting a chance to do anything here. Finally, Hawk tags in Animal. Animal shows some fire when he takes out both Booker T and Stevie Ray, but Harlem Heat goes straight back into the driver's seats. Booker T hits the Harlem Hangover on Hawk, but the referee is distracted on the outside. Road Warrior Animal kicks Booker in the head, and this allows Hawk to score the pinfall win. This was kinda disappointing. Harlem Heat and the Road Warriors are, without a doubt, two of the greatest tag teams of all time. This Nitro match didn't allow either team to show what they were really all about. Before the Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels promo, we get another Mankind vignette. Mick Foley talks about how his mother left him, and the only person who understands Mankind is his little pet rat George. Mankind says that he's coming home, which is good news for him, but not for everyone else. Foley again cries at the end of the promo, and it does add a whole lot to the vignette. We wouldn't have to wait much longer for Mankind to make his debut. The official WrestleMania 12 t-shirt is then modelled by this young lady, and you can get yours for only $18. It's official, guys. Barry Dudinsky has left the building. Shawn Michaels then makes his way to the ring, followed by Bret the Hitman Hart, and both men get an equally good ovation from the audience. Neither man is getting cheered more than the other. Vince McMahon asks Shawn Michaels what his feelings are towards Bret Hart. HBK says that no one respects Bret more than Shawn Michaels, and Shawn says Bret is indeed the best there was, but HBK can't tell the future, so he can't say if Bret's the best there ever will be. You can see Bret smirking at this comment as if to say, yeah, motherfucker, you already know what's happening at WrestleMania. Shawn then says that he doesn't believe Bret is the best there is, as HBK thinks that he's the man right now in the World Wrestling Federation. Vince has a big shit-eating grin when HBK says this, by the way, and I have no idea why. Bret puts Shawn over while saying that the Hitman has had a tough few months as WWF champion, and even though Bret thinks that Shawn's a great wrestler, HBK won't take the belt away from the Hitman. Bret then makes Vince McMahon crack when the Hitman says he'll hit Shawn with everything but the kitchen sink, and because Vince laughs, Bret also laughs.
I'm gonna hit you with everything but the kitchen sink, and you're in for the biggest dog fights you've ever seen in your whole life.
Vince says that conditioning will be a big part of the WrestleMania main event, and HBK says that Bret Hart has had a ton of tough opponents over the last few months, but HBK has taken a few kickings himself. Shawn says he's in the best shape of his life while showing off his abs. What a humble guy. And Bret Hart calls himself the Energizer Bunny because the Hitman keeps going and going and going. Just then, Roddy Piper shows up and the Hot Rod has an announcement to make. Before making the historic announcement, Piper takes time to put over both Bret and Shawn before ripping into Shawn a little for showing off his abs. Good stuff. Piper says that WrestleMania 12 is the night to fight, and because Bret and Shawn were out there talking about conditioning, then the WrestleMania 12 main event will not be a one-fall match. To ensure the true best of the best gets decided, whoever scores the most falls within 60 minutes will win the match. That's right, 60 minutes of WrestleMania would get dedicated to Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. Both men say they have no problem competing in such a match, and Piper tells the Hitman and the Heartbreak Kid to shake hands now because they're going to hate each other after WrestleMania 12. No truer words have ever been spoken. A point for Raw, this was a fantastic promo and it really did add a whole lot of excitement to WrestleMania. Before moving on, the WWF aired a promo for their Superstar Hotline, and strangely, they used Lex Luger's WCW theme as background music. Maybe both companies licensed the song, who knows, but still quite interesting.
The World Wrestling Federation Superstar line is open 24 hours a day. All you have to do...
The WCW 6-man tag is going head-to-head with two Raw segments, a handicap match featuring Yokozuna versus Owen Hart and Davey Boy Smith, and a Larry Fling segment with the Huckster and the Nacho Man. The heels come out to the ring first, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson and Kevin Sullivan, and then out come the Hulkster, the Macho Man and the Bootyman. Again, if you didn't watch WCW Saturday Night, you'd have no idea why Ed Leslie was now the Bootyman. The babyfaces get in the ring and a brawl breaks out, and the bad guys take a beating before the bell rings. The Bootyman and Arn Anderson start things off, and it looks like Ed Leslie has no clue what to do. Just then, Kimberly, the Diamond Doll, shows up on the entranceway holding some flowers. Mongo says that Kimberly could be out here looking for some beef. No joke, Kimberly is hunting for some beef. You can now actually completely forget about the Diamond Doll because we don't see her again for the remainder of the broadcast. The action is completely dead here as the Bootyman gets the upper hand over Double A. Eric explains that the Bootyman was a Dungeon of Doom spy on commentary to try and give a little context here. Arn fights back, but the Enforcer finds himself in a sleeper hold. The Taskmaster also gets put in a sleeper, and then Ric Flair gets in the ring to teach the Bootyman a lesson. Keep in mind that not a single tag was made here, but somehow Flair is the legal man. Basically, Flair, Anderson and the Taskmaster have been given the job of trying to make Ed Leslie look good here, and Leslie is kicking everyone's ass, but the audience just can't buy into it. Thankfully, Savage gets tagged in, Randy spits on Flair before getting into the ring, and the Macho Man is able to take care of the three heels all by himself. Flair delivers a big chop to Savage, but the Macho Man instantly fights back. It's going to be hard for the heels to build any kind of momentum here. We see the top rope Flair bump, Savage misses a double axe handle, but before Flair can begin firing up, the Hulkster gets tagged in. Hogan destroys Flair while no-selling everything as usual. Flair gets thrown out of the ring, and this gives Hulk an opportunity to also take out Sullivan and Anderson. It's getting a little comical here. A tandem big boot from the Bootyman and Hulk finds its mark, and once again the Bootyman is allowed to destroy all three of his opponents. I swear to God, I can't wait for Hogan to turn heel in WCW just a few months to go. Miss Elizabeth and Woman try to grab Savage's leg, and the biggest pop of the match comes when the Macho Man grabs both ladies by the hair, but this gives the heels a chance to get in a little offense, would you believe it? Savage begins taking a beating from Anderson and Flair inside and outside the ring. We see quick tags from the bad guys as Flair, Taskmaster and the Enforcer try to turn this mess into something that resembles a competitive wrestling match, but Savage is now reaching for his corner in despair. We're just waiting for that hot tag. Will Hogan get tagged in, or will it be the Bootyman? Well, Bootyman gets tagged in, and then Hogan gets tagged in 10 seconds later. The Bootyman launches the bad guys into Hogan's big boot. Double A takes the leg drop, 1, 2, 3, and it's all over. Absolutely dreadful match. Miss Elizabeth puts handcuffs on Hogan in the corner. Elizabeth struggles to get the handcuffs on, and the Hulkster lends a helping hand. Sullivan ends up pulling Elizabeth away because she's taking way too long. Hogan was supposed to get whipped in the back to end the show, but there's no time left on the clock. Nitro goes off the air with an incredibly poor main event. Owen, Davey and Yokozuna make their way to the ring for the Raw main event. Owen starts the match off by dodging Yokozuna and celebrating afterwards, but Owen ends up eating a big back elbow. Yokozuna slams Owen to the mat before the King of Hearts takes a clothesline after an Irish whip reversal. Owen scurries to his corner to tag in Davey Boy. The Bulldog tries to knock Yokozuna down with a few clotheslines of his own, but Yoko ends up body slamming his opponent. Jim Cornette jumps on the ring apron, and this allows Owen to illegally enter the ring with a missile dropkick. Owen and Davey begin attacking Yokozuna as we go to commercials, and when we come back, the double teaming continues. Owen goes to the top rope, but he misses a big splash. This gives Yokozuna a chance to recuperate, but just then, the man they call Vader begins walking to the ring. Jim Cornette tries to stop Vader from stepping inside the ropes, but it's no good. Vader gets in and he takes out Yokozuna. As the 3-on-1 assault begins, Ahmed Johnson runs in for the save, followed by Jake the Snake Roberts. All of these men would end up getting involved in a 6-man tag to open up WrestleMania XII, but while all of this was happening, Vince McMahon was still promoting the Vader vs Yokozuna one-on-one match at Mania. The heels back off as we end Raw with another Billionaire Ted skit, this time featuring the Huckster and the Nacho Man. We're once again back on the Larry Fling show. Larry says that the Nacho Man and the Huckster bring him back to his childhood because these two guys are from a previous generation. Larry asks about the well-being of Miss Elizabeth, and both men answer at the same time that she's not doing so great. Larry asks why did the Huckster and the Nacho Man sell out and join WCW, and the Nacho Man says that he was too old and too bald to keep up with the WWF's new generation. Billionaire Ted then joins the show via satellite, and Larry says he can't tell who is older, himself or the two geezers sitting with him in the studio. Larry says that Ted should pay him the same money that he pays these two has-beens, and the Huckster goes to attack Larry with a steel chair, but Mr. Fling pulls out a high-heeled shoe to keep the Huckster at bay. The segment ends when Larry asks the men who will win their match at WrestleMania. The Huckster says that he has to win, so all the little Hulkamaniacs continue to buy his merch. The Nacho Man says that the Huckster's merch is handed out for free at shows, and the Huckster wraps things up by hitting everyone in sight with some weak chair shots. Larry holds up the high-heeled shoe once again and the Huckster backs off. It's another point for Raw. I can't think of a good thing to say about the Nitro main event, whereas the Raw match was short but passable. Last week's Billionaire Ted skit was better, but this was still okay. Sting and Big Bubba got the first point for Monday Nitro, while Bob Holly vs Diesel got the second point, thanks to the post-match shenanigans with The Undertaker. Shinobi vs Ahmed Johnson was awful, so Nitro got the next point, and then Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels had a great promo to score Raw another point. Both shows were let down by the final segments, but if I had to choose one over the other, it would be the WWF's offerings. Raw wins this week's Reliving the War. That means our overall scores then are 9 points to Raw, 11 points to Nitro, and we're still on 3 ties. In the television ratings, it was extremely close, but Nitro got the win with a 3.2 over Raw's 3.1. Last week I asked you guys to decide what you'd like to see happen next week on Reliving the War. Nitro is preempted next week because TNT were showing some Civil War movie. I'm not kidding, by the way. And I asked you guys to choose if you wanted a quick recap of next week's Raw or if you want another special episode of Reliving the War that covers Raw in detail. The vast majority of you went for option 2, so next week I'll put together episode 23.5 and we'll see how the WWF fared on an unopposed Monday night. We have both Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in action. It looks like the WWF wanted to put on a big show, so we'll check that out next Thursday. Thank you for watching and I'll see you all next week.